I don't know, Ashley. I'm just getting fed up with all this YouTube bullshit, all the drama. I just wanna leave and not do any more videos anymore. I don't think I want to do something else with my life.
So, what do you want to do then?
I want to dance. About by making Cavill. This guy again. Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I don't even know. Like, did that even get it to work?
I felt it. I think it was good.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Nailed it. Yeah,
it's that nerd man, right there, Lex Luthor.
So today we are talking Dazed and Confused on With Enough Prep Time. I'm here with two. I think Ashley, you're a bit of a fan.
I like it. I know. I do have some issues.
Oh, I'd love to talk about them. Film Elitist is a big fan, and basically this is my show that I'm trying it out of just things I love and just discussing things I love with people, because I do a lot of debate stuff and people going back and forth upset with each other about things, and it's nice to just talk to somebody about something you love. Not any real arguments there, but just try and celebrate that thing. So Dazed and Confused is the thing, and we did so just to introduce the topic, we did a Hot Takes Tuesdays, which, if you don't know, is like a show where we discuss me and Philosophical Pickle discuss unpopular opinions that we have, and we argue against the panel. But we did one on Dazed and Confused where Philosophical Pickle suggested that Dazed and Confused was overrated, and I was caught in I was kind of blindsided by this question, because I'd never actually talked about really deeply why I like Dazed and Confused. So he asked a really good question: is the film deep? And me and Film Elitist, we tried our best at the time, but again, we thought maybe it would be nice to review it again and see if we can unpack a little bit more of what this film is about, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I lost my shit on that one when we did it originally, because
don't worry. Yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say it got very spirited. I feel like it's gonna be a little more friendly today. So
to be fair, do I think it's overrated? No, I feel like it deserves its place. For the time, what film it is, it's a classic film. I do have small, maybe they're nitpicks, issues with it, but for me, overall, I enjoy it. It's a good film. I can watch it, and I am enjoying it, and I'm happy watching this and experience this whole story throughout the whole movie. So for me, it deserves its spot. It's a great story, and to me, Matthew McConaughey shows you who Matthew McConaughey is. He's this exaggerated version of himself, really. A Texas football player, and in general, I love movies a lot of the times that have Texas football elements. And so for me, I love that it wasn't based on that, but that element, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that really quickly. And so for me, it's not an overrated film. It's a good film. I always have a good time and enjoy it. But I do have some issues, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, well, I'm not really here to relitigate the overrated thing. I think.
I just wanted to say that how I felt about it.
No. I know. I think Pickle did quite a good job, and it was just again. I'd always watched this as just a fun film, recognizing that I thought it did have deeper themes, but never really talking about it, just talking about the cool shit in it. So when he asked me that, I was kind of like, that's actually a good question. What let's, unpack why this film's deep. But anyway, so the first thing I usually do on why I love this, or this Why I Love series, is find out how you first, came across the film. What was it like that happened? I have a little bit of a kind of interesting story with it. But I'd like to let's go, Ashley, because you were talking about the football thing, so you might as well continue with that. And tell me about when you first watched the film, how you kind of like introduced the film.
It was actually my sophomore year of high school when I watched it. My friend Katie, who we were, really good friends, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I watched this movie. And my brother showed me this movie. You gotta watch it." And we watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this is so tight." And I remember, here I am, 16, watching it, and thinking, "Oh, this is such a good movie."
What year was that, out of curiosity? Like
that
roughly,
was 2004. 2004.
And did it seem relevant to you?
Yeah, because I felt very. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Because I felt connected just with the story, just about being young and just them having a good time. But then when I watched it as an adult, I have a different feeling for it, and I've seen it again, and still had those memories of what I liked about it when I was younger, and those things that I enjoy about it now, and those things that go, I like it in the story, but you're assholes. And at the time, I thought differently, so that's a cool
you
way
thought
to
they were cool.
tell.
You thought they were tight.
Yeah, I thought it was like, oh, okay, but then I'm like, now I'm like, oh gosh, you're dicks, at times, But great movie.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. Film Elitist. When did you first kind of watch it? How were you introduced to it? And
I haven't thought about this in a long time, but you actually just jarred my memory. I was living with my grandfather. I was 20 years old. He had a IFC TV, and they would show really good indie movies and old movies and stuff. So I remember I was drinking and smoking cigarettes, and this was a very specific time in my life where I felt connected to these characters. And I grew up in Texas. I spent my whole life here. So when I watched it, it definitely made an impression on me, and I felt connected to a lot of the characters, and I felt like it was such an accurate representation of people that I grew up with, people that I knew, just the accents, the way people behaved, the weekend party life. And it was at a time in my life, it was the perfect time to see it for me. So, yeah.
Okay. And well, all right. I'll tell you my story. It's a little bit more kind of
I'm sure it's more exciting.
No, it's not it's not really exciting as such, but it's just one of those strange things, because this immediately, I think, became one of my favorite movies, from the first time I saw it. And I think I was between 11 years old and 13. And basically, I had this, my mother's household, it was just you can stay up pretty late, even though you were supposed to, you at that age you'd expect kids to have a bedtime or whatever, but we didn't really have that. And I always used to love there was we had 4 channels in the UK, basically. So on channel 4 there used to be that was the edgier channel that showed edgier stuff, and every so often there was this teenage coming of age movie that would come on at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? On a Friday or Saturday or something like that. And I always used to catch those movies. It's how I discovered things like Oz, the TV show, and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember watching it for so I came into it about maybe 10 minutes after it already started, but I didn't know this. So I watched it for 5 minutes, and I loved it so much that I quickly rushed and got a tape, like the old cassette tapes, put it on, recorded it. And for ages, because this was I don't know, it wasn't pre-internet necessarily, but not internet wasn't the readily available for everyone. And so for ages I didn't even know what the film was called. I just I literally, you can put on your mics, it's fine, it's weird when I hear no sound. Put on your sorry,
I was just enjoying this. This story is a lot more interesting, but I like it. I'm listening.
So for ages I didn't know what the film was called, because I didn't have the maybe I didn't know what it was called because maybe it would come up. But I certainly just didn't know much about the film, and like I didn't have the first 10 minutes of the film. So for ages, I didn't even see the first 10 minutes of it. Right, I only had this tape that started off from about the bit where Mitch is getting paddled, right? And it took me a long time, like until I don't know, like I was in my 20s before I saw the actual whole movie, right? Like I finally got around to like being like, yeah, I remember that movie I used to love so much, you know, that I used to watch like I probably watched it every week for the first year I had that tape until the tape was destroyed or something. So that was my thing, and it again, I had like this long period of time where I didn't watch it, and it was just in my 20s where like the internet was like finally like everyone had like high speed internet. You could watch things, you know how we watch things on the web, so I was kind of it was just easy to look up all those old films that you know I'd recorded but never bought or had like easy access to. So it was just a weird thing of like for ages not even seeing that first 10 minutes of the movie really. But I absolutely loved it, and I always thought like it was like it was just like a fun thing to this is it, that I thought that it captured being young so fucking well. I just thought like that and Stand By Me were always my coming of age movies. Like I just couldn't think of any movie that had captured youth as well as those two movies. So yeah, that's my story of basically how I first watched it. But I always found it weird that I remember being so happy when I finally found it on the web, and I was like, oh, like the first 10 minutes of this film, I could finally see it. But yeah, that's it. So the other thing I wanted to like ask you about like is so me and Film Elitist were having obviously a conversation on the Hot Takes Tuesdays about like the themes and stuff of the movie and whether we think it's a deep movie. So Ashley, you've got some critiques of the movie and also what you like about it. But do you just like off the bat, do you think it's a deep movie or just like a fun, like kind of, teenage?
I think it has I would say it has moments for me that are deep and that have messages behind it. But what I consider the whole film as a whole deep, no. But there are moments that I feel that are very deep, and it is like, I like that it's kind of a coming of age story too, especially with Mitch's character, but I have issues with Mitch's character as well. But I like him, the baseball stuff I thought was great. But I don't like, this is probably the biggest nitpick. I know, probably, but this is what I do, I guess. So when they're standing out there and he's talking to his sister, like the facial acting is so bad in that scene that I cannot stay connected in it. And me, if I can't stay connected to it, it takes me out of it. And I'm not there, and I don't really give a shit, right? Because the facial acting is so aggressively bad and so distracting that I'm just like, what? Why are you even doing this right now? Like, you kind of are ruining a lot of the build up that you've done with this character in that one moment for me. And that is probably one of the biggest issues that I do have with the movie. And that's
the face acting of Mitch. I love it. I love the face acting of Mitch. He's even when he's bad, he's great. There's actually, I was telling the Film Elitist, there's a great drinking game that you can play with Dazed and Confused, which is another thing that was like a big thing of my 20s, which was like hanging out with my friends, watching Dazed and Confused and playing the drinking game of every time Mitch touches his nose or his hair, you have to take like a shot of thing. It's hilarious how much he does it in the movie. But I know what you're talking about. He is like,
but that's he's a bit around,
so bad, right? Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was just say, but like he does it throughout the whole film, but that section is just like so much at one time, you know? Emily, yes, yes,
It
that's what
asked
I'm
for it like
saying.
10 times within 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Emily.
You know, it's
Oh my God, are we
you
gonna do a
know,
watch party drinking game combo? Yeah, we should do it, man. We could do
Nerd
like
Man
a
will host that, you
We'll get
know,
charged with
Nerd Man.
manslaughter if we do that.
You know, I will,
You do not want to take shots. I've done it before,
Trust
taken
us,
shots
Jess.
every time
you know,
Mitch touches his nose. It is not, or hair. It's not a good idea.
I'm only drinking when I drink bourbon with Jess. I'm not drinking. I don't, you know, no, I'm drinking.
Yeah. But anyway, go on. You were saying that Mitch was like your big problem with the movie.
With the facial acting, and you know, and it's just in that spot, it just seems like it was such a, it could have been that moment. Could it, like everybody in the scene was great, and then he's doing these things that are completely distracting from what's happening in the story there, and so it's just I just so aggressively annoying and bad, and I can't get past it.
What is wrong
It
with you?
bothers me
What is
so
wrong
bad.
with Pickle? Sorry, I'm listening to you, but like,
I'm
what is
sorry.
wrong with Pickle? I just clicked on it.
Oh, there it
My
is. Nerd
God.
Man loves drinking peaches.
He loves trolling me. Like right when I'm on a stream, he just like tries to get
That's
me off my game or
fantastic.
something by
The
trolling
banter.
me in a weird way. Um, but all right. So what were the strongest elements of the film? Oh, let me ask Elise, because you haven't spoken that much. So tell me
Yes,
some of the
please.
strongest elements of the film, or maybe like favorite characters.
Strongest elements for me, like when I first saw that movie, it also instantly became one of my favorite movies.
Hmm.
And it was because it was so true to Texas, because Linklater's from there, and it was so true to, like you said, one of the best, if not the best, depiction of being young that I'd ever seen. And just, I really like the philosophical waxings that they have in the intermingling of their groups. Like, it seems like inconsequential teenagers thinking about bigger questions to life, and it comes off kind of stonerish or whatever. But I had those kind of moments in my life where when I first
Absolutely.
started smoking and drinking and meeting new people, and you have these conversations at 2 a.m. and you're wondering how your life's going to turn out. That's some of the most important stuff that turns you into who you're going to become. So I thought they handled all of that stuff really well. I mean, I
And
told you
I
earlier.
think also it's a point at which just to piggyback a little bit of what you were saying, like it's a point at which you have no defenses as well. You're not you know, you haven't built up any walls, and that's why
Right.
it's so easy for your thoughts to just flow and you to just be completely kind of honest and vulnerable with people. And I think in a way that's what the film captures a little bit, but it's nice to be reminded of that, like that stage. That's what I
Yeah.
usually get watching the film. But anyway, carry on, man. Sorry.
No, it's exactly right, because that's what I'm thinking about. Is when you asked when I first saw it, I'm taking myself back to that place, and even though a lot of kind of dark and twist and turn things happen in my younger adolescence, it's like sometimes you look back and you're like, I kind of wish I was there before I built up, like you said, defenses and understood the world and became a more fully formed person. There's something nice about being young and having so much to look forward to. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
it's a feeling you can never get back, and you don't realize it when you're in it. That's what's so interesting about it.
And I think the film, and it's a lot like Stand by Me in a way, even though it's like very you know, it's very epoch specific, right? Like one is the 50s, one is the 70s. So it's a youth of that time. It gets this feeling of universality because you recognize all of those conversations and you recognize all of those characters, those particular archetypes that are in the film, right? Like whether it be like the bully who flunked out, you know, his what was it, senior year or something,
Yeah.
or the kind of nice guy who was part of the popular group and was nice to like the younger kids, and like all of these characters you kind of recognize, within the cast. And I just think it captures it so authentically that by mirroring that, you're just transported back to that age yourself. Even though it's in the 70s, right? This film, you're still transported back to your high school and your moments.
Also, the whole plot of the movie, if there is a plot, is basically all of these people trying to go to a party. And it seems kind of superficial or whatever, but that part of it too, when you're young and you're doing that kind of thing, that's what your life is about. Even if you had a job or school or whatever, you're looking forward to the weekend or whenever it is that you're going to ride around with your friends, looking for girls, looking for a party. Like, that's what you were doing for a few years of your life. Most people, so you can relate to that on a way that, like, it doesn't happen any other time in your life. There's just this one specific section where that's what life is about. Kind of like Friends. Like Friends is a show.
Yeah, Friends does
yeah,
that in a lot of ways. I know, but it's not as good as this. It's not as good as Dazed.
No, for sure.
No,
It's about
not by a long shot.
This
phase in your life.
But I think it's got the same kind of thing of why it's so comforting to people.
And I identified with the nerd kids in this movie.
Did you?
Because I just didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I was, not allowed to go anywhere. And all I cared about was my schoolwork and, doing that and, being competitive and being the best. And so when, in like that whole moment when he's in the car, like, I know exactly what he means. Is like, I can't wait till I go to college, because just the level of the intellect changes. Groups change, the dynamics change, and I resonate. That's how I used to think. I used to say that in my head, and I know what was meant by that. It was also kind of also about the women, but it was bigger than just the women. It was also nobody really gets it there, right? Because he's on a whole other wavelength. Nobody other than these two other people really had that intellect. They are the smart guys, and like, I know how that feels. They're accepted a bit, but they're still like awkward and they're still nerdy and they've not experienced a whole lot. So I identified with them so much in this movie, I love everybody. Go ahead. I love it all. It's just like the fact that, like you say, I remember thinking, oh, they don't give a shit when I was younger and they can just do these things. That's cool, right? Because like, I was so like afraid to get in trouble, afraid to do these things. So like when they're smashing that mailbox, I'm like, and throwing that trash, I was like, oh, laughing
at them.
Yeah. And then later I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh, you're assholes. If you did that to me, I'd probably just like go get my gun too. Like, really? Like, I would be so mad now. Not really get my gun. That's me joking. But I would be so upset now. Like, I look at the moment and I still love it for how I felt then, but now I have a whole different perspective on the moment. But I still like, it's just a good movie.
I'd be so happy if
it makes me happy. It's just like, it's such a happy. It makes me happy.
If they were genuinely having fun as opposed to doing something that I think is just a waste of their lives or something like that. But if they were genuinely having fun and whatever, and somebody did that to my whatever, I'd probably be a bit pissed. But at the same time,
I was exaggerating. I wouldn't really get it
would be
done,
like,
I would.
But you.
But I would find their mama. I would find their mothers, and be like, "Look, your kid is
you're a
like
snitch. You're a snitch, girl."
Well, I'm like
straight up snitching since '97 and shit.
Now it's like, I'm going to go talk to you. I'm going to talk to the parent, because if my kid did that, you better come tell me. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. That's how I think about it. Okay? If my kid did some dumb shit like that,
one of the things. No, but that's one of the things. Like, you just
it's
hit
a different perspective, now.
Yeah, one of the things you hit on, which I love, is like, one, who we each have to say who we identified with most. But the other thing is, like, I want to live in this fucking movie. If there was, the question, if you could live in any movie, which movie would it be? It's probably this movie, and I don't. And at the same time, I'm thinking, why the fuck would I want to put myself through that? Getting hazed, like paddled, or like being the nerd kid who gets, beaten up or whatever. But I would love to live it, or one of the girls who's been made humiliated, like in front of like everyone in the school. And it's just weird, though. I just would love to still be part of that world somehow, and like specifically in the 70s. Who do I identify most with in the film? I couldn't put my finger quite on it. I think the closest one, and this isn't who I was in school at all. I was quite different in school, but like I guess the guy I identified most with was the really like the one who gets really high. Right, like the super high guy, like
Slater.
What's his name?
Slater.
Is it Slater?
Yeah.
Give me drugs, man. Like him. Slater, give me drugs, man. Yeah, I don't know, something about him. I guess what it is he reminds me of some of the people in my group. More than any of the other ones. Like I don't like relate necessarily like to the guys who are bullying the younger kids, but I'm definitely wasn't one of the nerds either, like who wasn't invited to parties and wasn't, so I guess it's either between him or the guy, the nice popular guy who who basically looks after Mitch. That's probably somewhere between those two is the closest approximation to who I was in high school, I guess. Something like that. And you, Film Elitist? Who's your...
So for me, I related
Where did Ashley go?
I think she had a connection issue. For me, it was the nerds when I was in high school for the most part. But I also identified a lot with the Matthew McConaughey, the Slater, and that whole group that was like smoking and stuff a lot and partying, because that's more what I was in my early 20s. So I kind of identified with both of those groups. I didn't identify with the bullying aspect, but I mean, that's what I did for a couple of years, was just ride around with my friends, looking for parties, smoking, like having conversations and just living life. And it seems kind of dumb in retrospect, but it's also like some of the most fun times of my life. So,
yeah, actually, I think So, Film Elitist was saying he's like you. He was a nerd, basically.
Yeah, I'm totally
related
Cynthia.
to the nerd.
Like I'm gonna fall for that. I mean, like I'm falling for it too. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like smooth, cool, chill, tight. Yeah, I would have been doing that.
There's that part,
if I was there,
There's that part where Matthew McConaughey says to the red-haired nerdy girl, he says, "There's a party over at the Moon Tower," and like that whole little scene right there. That's literally like exactly like something my friends would have said in my early 20s.
And like he said, "Do you need a ride?" And she's like, "No, dude, I got my car." Like I would be like that is like what? But okay, but yeah, okay, but yeah, it's tight like that. Cynthia, love her. Okay, I love so many people, but Cynthia, that's me, dude.
Cynthia, really. I used to have the hots for Cynthia actually. She was one of like when I was I might have been 13 or whatever. I always thought, she's really cute. But yeah, Cynthia. I think out of all of the nerds, maybe Cynthia or the guy who was like, I want to dance. Like I kind of get with them, but the other one, I'm like, no, you're just too much of a nerd for me. I wouldn't have been like down with the other guy, but. I think it's just a perfectly accurate kind of picture of all the different levels of school. But this is where we have to talk about something a little bit more, which is what we think like the meaning is. Like now you've had time to think about it, Film Elitist. Like where would you go in terms of talking about or deconstructing what you think like What was Linklater trying to get at with this movie? And by the way, sorry, can somebody pull up Linklater's movies, Richard Linklater's films for me, just quickly, and share it? Because if I do, it will disrupt the stream.
Ashley, do you want to do it?
What do you want me to look at?
Richard Linklater's filmography.
So I think the movie was, to me at least, hey, what's up, Hayden Nate? I think that the film, at least to me, my subjective interpretation, it's about two big things. It's about a bunch of things, but two big things. One being what it is to be young and that specific time in your life. And the other thing I think it's trying to say is that, to me at least, it's about being an individual or being a product of your environment. And it's that nature-nurture thing, right? Where it's like Matthew McConaughey is a product of his environment. You know, he can't let go of the fact that high school was the best time of his life, and he's this guy that was slaying the women or whatever, and these guys that live for the football glory, and they live for their parents' expectations, or they live for their friend groups that they get dragged into or whatever. Then there's the people like Randall, the football player, who decides, like, I'm not going to do what my coach wants me to do or what my friends want me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. Or the nerds, how they're saying, like, I can't wait to get out of here so I can become who I want to become, not who my parents want me to be or the people that I grew up with. I want to get away from this town. And it's a lot about being in a small town, and it's a lot about identity and individualism, I think. Like, are you going to choose who you want to be, or are you going to let the world decide that for you?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's very right in a lot of ways.
You can share my screen when you're ready. So I got it.
We'll talk about the rest of his filmography in just a moment. I don't know. Have you watched many of his films, Ashley? Richard Linklater?
I didn't know. Yeah, actually, looking at them, yes, I have seen quite a few of them. I know. Okay. So, and you know, so. Boyhood.
We'll talk about it after, but like, yeah, I know. No, I was saying, I think that's really right. I mean, for me, I think the movie is like, it's what you're saying. Definitely, I can see that interpretation of like just how it is about definitely the individual and their ability to choose who they are to become versus socialization, and you know how institutions can kind of limit your possibilities, right? Like just being part of this institution and part of this hierarchy can limit or structure what your opportunities are, what the opportunities you have for who you are to become. Right. So I definitely see that kind of tension playing out in the movie. But I think, yeah, like even deeper, what like Richard Linklater is critiquing in this movie is institutions, and it is how they can indoctrinate individuals to, or you know, how they can indoctrinate people who are part of those institutions to the extent that they become part of their own self-subjugation. So they begin to partake in rituals and in habits that lead to their own the shaping of their own identity in a way that reproduces the power dynamics of the institution or of a country or of, you know, or capitalism or whatever the hell the institutional thing is. So I think that for me is like a really interesting part of like what I see in the film. I don't know if do people think I'm crazy by saying that, or is that something you also see in these kind of the way these kids are taking on these rituals and recreating the power dynamics that serve ultimately society? And just one last thing that
I love it. I see this is what Nerdman is amazing right here.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. But it's also done along kind of a gendered line as well. So it's not just like looking at it from like all it's done so that you see how these structures influence the possibilities or the potentials of what girls are going to become, and the possibilities of what boys are going to become.
Nerdman,
right?
Do you think it's gendered, or do you think it's more about stereotypes in general? Because I mean, don't they kind of get into that too with like the football player that's not supposed to be the stoner, and the nerds that aren't supposed to be able to stand up for themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm saying it's agree
everywhere.
with you.
It's everywhere.
I agree it's about the institutions and how, or your family, or your teachers, like people that are in power influencing you. But I think it's also about like them trying to stereotype you, and you making the decision or not making the decision to change that, right?
To be something different,
Right. I
Right.
think that's on the flip side of it, right? But I also think there's the critique underlying what there's.
And
So I want to get what Ashley says.
I want to say just and to do that at that age is very brave, because like, like if you're already, willing to escape this, designated path, because, that was something I couldn't do. To me, that's a very brave thing to do. You're young, your brain is still developing, but you realize that this is not specifically what I want, right? This is not going to make me happy. This is what I've been taught. This is what I've been told. And this is my label. And so I need to stick inside that label. And just seeing people escape that is a deep, deep part of the film. It's a deep element. And, so I wanted
Can
to
I
say
just
that
piggyback off that a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Richard Linklater, if you know anything about him, if you read about him,
Mm-hmm.
who he was and his experience was that it was growing up in a small town in Texas, working on an oil rig, on offshore oil rigs, and doing like menial grunt labor. And nobody thought that you could be a filmmaker if you were from Texas. But he just like was obsessed with it, and he didn't want to let people decide for him who he was going to become. And
it's strange because Austin, Texas has become this big hub of like culture and arts in America now, and filmmakers all love it there. But probably him growing up, it was really different. But carry on, sorry, mate.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that he had a lot to do with that. And that movie Slacker, it was one of those times like with Kevin Smith or some of the other early 90s directors, like where they would take out a bunch of credit card debt, save every dollar they had, and they'd go make a movie. Like that. You want to talk about bravery? Like that's exactly what Ashley's saying. Like he lived that experience that she's talking about, of taking a shot where it could have completely failed, but he knew that he didn't want to let other people decide what he was going to be. Like he had a dream and he carried it through. So I think that resonates in the film because that's his story too.
Yeah, no, and
nice, Elitist. Thank you. I did not know that. Thank you for that information.
Philosophical Pickle is out here kind of arguing against us again. Again, this is just about like why we love it, and I'm glad
Pickle's back. He's misbehaving.
I really thank you for actually bringing it up, because I'd never thought about it. All I used to think about this movie is cool, like let's have a cool time and just watch this like stoner movie. But like I always recognized it was quite deep, but I never really talked about it. So I was quite stumped when he asked me about it as to what it is. So I had to kind of unpack it at the time. But I think you're right about this kind of, I think that's definitely there. Like that's one of the levels of the movie, which is like this question of individualism and making that choice, and how important it is to make a choice that breaks from the monotony of one's reality, right? Like that significant choice that where you take charge of life and determine what kind of individual you're going to be, rather than letting outside forces or external forces shape who you are to become. And I think that's definitely part. Sorry, go
on. Just to add to that, just one more layer. When you grow up in a small town, anywhere, it's a very specific thing. But growing up in a small town in a place that's hopeless, that doesn't feel like it fosters artistic support. You know, like people in Texas, even Austin at that time, and any other areas of Texas even now. Like I know, growing up for me, like I wanted to be a filmmaker, and
Mm.
it was not like something that was supported. Like that's not what you do where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you know, that might be like a trivial detail or whatever, but they really nailed. There's something very specific about that small town, I've got to escape this place feeling that's in that movie that I loved. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, definitely, it's there. And I mean, Ashley, did you want to respond to like what Film Elitist is saying there? Like,
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I was just listening. Really sorry.
no, it's okay.
To both of
I've
you
got
guys right
something
now.
I want to say, but it's like
Go
on
for it.
it's
Yeah.
in a different, because I have to say, like, I agree with you, but I
No,
just
I do
think
have a point.
that
Go for it.
you dismissing the kind of critique there that it has of society, using the school as a kind of a mirror for the whole problem, the whole crux of the problem with you know, whatever you want to call it, late capitalist or late
Yeah,
modern capitalism or whatever,
I
and
think
how
it's
it kind of reproduces its power structures, I think is there. And the specific gendered version of this critique is in that film. What I mean by that is, if you look at what you're saying about these people's opportunities, their possibilities, and how they're being shaped by this school, it's because in many ways this school, this institution, is not, you know, the institution that is supposed to teach you to learn how to become yourself, is not there functioning as it should. What it's functioning as is creating a bunch of people who are very, very uncritical about their circumstances and what's going on in their lives, and are just being told or being shaped or formed by very outside forces, rituals, habits, you know, certain you know, I don't know, like, as I said, rituals, habits, all of this kind of thing. And the reason the education system is functioning like that, and how he's showing this, is because you know that you need plumbers, you need gas station clerks, you need soldiers, you need cops, you need you know, women, like a lot of women, you need them to have this delusion that like they can only be successful or have self-worth if like a man, if they get married and have children, and like maybe even at that time become like housewives, right? It's, you don't want people, when a society needs those kind of people, you don't want people within, like, who when they are young, thinking too critically and forging their or shaping their own destinies. Because if they did, none of them would want to become those, you know, those things that, you know, ultimately, how would I say, it's like the school system is in the end limiting their possibilities. It's allowing them to continue behaving in such a way that is going to lead them to a particular path, to a particular destiny, in which ultimately they're going to be trapped between one or two choices rather than loads of choices, loads of possibilities, loads of potentials. Whether, hey, I could choose to be a doctor or a dancer or a you know, or
I agree with
I
that.
could choose to, you know, it's as much as possible leading these people down a path where it narrows their possibilities so that they can only fulfill the functions needed by society, which is, as I said, you know, we need
But
wives.
also,
Yeah,
I also
yeah,
think it's at times can be a little bit, you know, simpler than that. That's also the ideals that you're taught at home during this
Right.
time, you know, as well.
right.
So it's not, so it's the overall message. And sometimes those family messages, I think, is where I kind of lean more towards it. But no, man, that's what I'm saying. I was listening to both of you, which that was very amazing back and forth, by the way. But I'm saying, you know, but I completely understand now when I do this about a Marvel property. That was very, you broke that down, and I don't see it that way. I see it more from a family aspect, but respect your opinion and where you were
Ashley,
going with that.
I think
Just wanted to say that.
That's why.
Oh, who, me?
Yes,
Or
you. Yeah. I was
right.
saying I didn't see it, but I respect it, and I can see how you got there. But for me, it was just more simplistic about the family
no,
aspect.
I think the family, all of that is these institutions. So
Yeah.
it's family, it's schools, it's
but I don't think
that
that was okay.
That's why I brought up the small town thing, is because I don't think it's I do think the critique is there about the power structures, but it's very specifically about small town Texas. It's very true to that, because
this world.
Like if this was a movie about these people in New York City, you wouldn't have that problem. Like, yeah, there's poor people, very poor people, but
middle class, right?
Middle class white people in New York, it fosters a different type of environment. Like, there's people that think they can be dancers and ballet dancers and Broadway stars and venture capitalists. When you're growing up in a small town in Texas, that culture in general breeds like you need to go work, be blue collar. Like, don't don't rock the boat. You don't need to be a creative or a political person or a social. That's what I think, that small town aspect, that culture. I get that because I grew up in it. And I think he nailed that, man. Like that's what resonated with the movie when I first watched it, was like, holy shit, this is like what I'm thinking in my own head put on film. And it was very inspiring, and I just got obsessed with Linklater after that.
But I mean, okay, so just I won't bang on about this, but just to give you some kind of example of what I'm talking about, because I know I'm someone who goes from abstract to detail, as opposed to the other way around. So sometimes I'm just like, it seems like a whole bunch of theory and whatever. But if you look at the kind of relationship like the women had with the guys, because all of the relationships, all of these things that were happening in that school were somewhat encouraged, by it seemed like either encouraged or ignored by the school, and by it was kind of normalized, all of the behavior, all of the especially the intergender dynamics in the school as well. So you have, for instance, this the football, what's his name, basically he was one of the football jocks or whatever, and he comes up to the female teacher, and she's like, are you coming to class? And he basically propositions her right in the beginning of the film, right? Or like them spanking one of the women on the bottom with the bat, and it's like all of that behavior is normalized and somewhat ignored. It's like this kind of casual sexism that exists, or not even casual, kind of quite blatant kind of sexism that exists, as a kind of normalized feature of their culture. And I think that lends, the reason that they're doing that and they're showing that is because it lends itself towards a view that these women are absolutely internalized about their relationship to these men. They are someone they defer to. They are someone that ultimately, they accept as, like in this hierarchy, like the men are like, the boys are like higher, right? And the boys' possibilities and I know. I'm saying, but that's how they were doing it. That's how society was reproducing these roles at that particular time. I'm not saying that's how it is now. I'm saying that's how it was then, right? So the women in there, those girls, most of them are not being taught to think critically about this behavior towards them. And the reason they're not being taught that is because that society, that social formation needs subservient kind of women who will be all right with just becoming wives or mother, housewives, or, something quite simple, quite basic. So it's interesting to see those girls as they're young having all these kind of, curious kind of conversations, and you could see how much potential they have to be something else, but the society, the very thing that's around them is narrowing those possibilities more and more, so that in the end, most of them are likely to become, right, like, and this is how you see the echoes of their future in some sense, likely to become just that, the housewife, or the mother. The only girl who probably isn't going to be that, who's probably going to end up protesting the Vietnam War or something like that, is the red-haired girl, Cynthia, right?
Yeah.
So other girls are just, it's narrowing their possibilities, and getting them used to normalizing this subservient attitude towards men.
And you have to think about it, that's still things that I was, even though I was the opposite, those were things I was taught. It goes about how you present yourself, like all of that. Like, it's all about this first, how you present yourself, and then everything else is secondary, and that is displayed perfectly here. And some of that stuff still translates from things that I experienced, things growing up, about, you're a girl, when you go out, you got to wear this, you got to do this, and da-da-da. And I was conditioned to be that way.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just how it is, right? That's something that I try to make sure that, being around my niece, that I, shift that narrative. It's like, because I'm always sick of that, oh, you're smart.
Wow, I just
and da-da-da. It's just like, it always goes back to this particular thing, the appearance, regardless if that's where you're at with it or not,
Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
Interesting. I want to talk more about your school experience with that, but I just thought of something. Film Elitist, I really am right about this, because even if you think of the ritual that the girls were doing, right, as opposed to the boys, right, the ritual was about subservience, submissiveness, right? Mm-hmm. And like, what is the thing? I can't remember. What is the thing that they ask the boys when they get on their knees, and they have to go and ask the boys something?
They basically say, they ask, will you marry me? And he says, well, basically, I can't remember the exact lines, like, what will you do? And she says, whatever you want, whatever you like, and it's just, especially at that time. And, that's just how it was. And to see that, and even some of those elements, have translated, and still happen in small doses, not to that extreme, but I feel that to see that, it was important, because that's what was happening. And some of these things still continue on, past, 1970. It still, happens now, which is ridiculous. But sometimes it's a little bit overly compensated on the other side, because where then you have to remove all sense of, like, women's looks and situations, which is ridiculous too. It's just like, it's two extremes, and it's silly to me.
No, of course, the other side, it can be kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I want to ask you about, like, how much that mirrored your school experience, like how different it was, obviously 70s versus growing up in the 2000s and stuff, like, I mean, does it mirror? And then also, Elitist, I want to get your response to all of this.
I'm from Kentucky, right? I'm considered, so silly, a Kentucky princess. Basically, I went to debutante. I like, all that silly stuff, but I didn't want to do it. But it was just like this thing that I had to do because that's the way I was taught. My mom, love her to death, right? So this is not like a harp on my mother, but she is teaching me what she was taught, right? So she was taught, when you go to the store, make sure you look nice, make sure you always present yourself, a specific way, because you don't want to look like this type of a female or this type of person, because you are a young lady and this is how you represent yourself, just little bitty things. And, some of those things I feel at. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mouth is naughty, here it is. But it's just, but some of those elements are part of who I am, like, I'm not going to go outside in pajama pants. Like, my mother would die. Like, that is something you don't do. Like, you
Right.
don't do it. In the South, you go and you're dressed and you go out, and that's how
You
you're
have to
supposed to.
look like a kind of lady, like kind of
Yes,
a.
like, you don't go out, anywhere looking disheveled or wearing, like, if I wore a pair of
Mm.
sweatpants at the store, it'd be the end of the world. You
Yeah,
know?
and but this serves a bigger kind of end kind of goal, I suppose, which is you're supposed to look like a lady because that I mean I don't know, I kind of I'm trying to like unpack like what the higher meaning of that is. Film Elitist, I have to ask you, just because I want to move on a little bit after this, but how are you starting to see like where I'm coming from with how what I think the film is trying to say about like gender roles as well, and how like even the toxic masculinity. Not I know people use that in a stupid way these days, but in this specific film, it's actually shown in a way how that is bred, right? How that is encouraged, or within like kind of football, American football jock culture or whatever you want to call it. So again, that's another way of how masculinity and is being defined, and so as to kind of narrow the possibilities of these individuals and shape exactly who they are to become.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I disagree with you on the point of the way that they're representing um, how the women are bred into this society at that time with the rituals and sexualizing them and all that stuff. It's just, I think that they make the same point with all the stereotypes in the film. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like when
yeah,
it
no,
comes to like
absolutely.
the boys are getting paddled because like, oh, you need to be a glutton for punishment, and like this is what you got to do, and oh, if you're a football player you can't smoke weed, and if you're a nerd you can't get laid, and you can't get in a fight. Like I think it's just about stereotypes in
I
general.
think
That's all
I,
I'm
I
saying.
think I think I think the boys are being paddled. So the women thing is about submissiveness, but the boys are being paddled in the sense of be a man, take go out there, face adversity, and then get up.
After you submit.
And kind of, yeah, well, kind of after you submit in a way, but like it's more take the kind of you've had this adverse whatever thing happen to you, and the thing is you have to man up and just talk to the people again, like who did this to you, and
But
hang out with them and whatever.
isn't
Like
every stereotype in that movie is about submission? It's not just the women. Submit to
It
the
no, it
authority
is.
of the
It
football
is.
coach. Submit to the authority of the seniors that are they have seniority over you. You have to let them pedal you
That
because
is
they're
true.
older than you.
yeah,
It's
but it's not.
ritualistic.
It's not. No, but it's not humiliating them to then go and speak to some girl, and then they have to like say hey to the girl, I'll do whatever you want, or the
Yeah,
girl
it's
one is
based off them
specifically to.
sexualizing them.
It's not. I wouldn't just be.
It not. I don't mean to. I don't mean
Like,
just like. I don't mean
mm,
the way that you're taking it. It's just that that submissive. And in that moment, saying the whole whatever you want. That is part of that as well. But I'm
yeah,
just saying, just this even the hint of making it go there is how
right,
women were represented, and that's how women were expected. To not really be forward with it because what would happen, but to also have that lure of that always behind you, because how do you get a man? You tell him whatever you want, right?
right,
That's what you
yeah,
tell them, because
but
men are stubborn, and you got to just agree, right?
right. And but again, what I'm saying, yeah, exactly, Elite, is that the rituals that the girls were doing were forming their attitudes towards men. That was the specific reason for those rituals, right? Whereas the ones with the men almost had nothing to do with the women, right? It was just like a man on man, like man thing, right? Like you just to be cool, you have to be able to take it and like get up and dust yourself off. Don't cry about it. Don't be a wimp about it. Be a man, And I think
I
that
think you're
is
overlooking how that forms their place in society, though, because at the time, it's a male-dominated society.
Yeah,
They're telling them this is the only way to be a real man is to be this
Yeah.
kind of man. You don't,
exactly.
so it's the
Right.
same thing. It's yeah, there's a more sexual element to what's going on with the women, and it's degrading on a different level. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, all of them are going through something where it's like
Oh yeah.
submit,
Oh, I
No, I
agree.
agree. I agree with
fit
that.
into
I
this
mean,
box. That's all I'm saying.
No,
mm,
it's I see it from the other side as well, but it's still something that is sometimes still taught, but not in smaller doses. And
yeah.
and some of those things we take those things on, and and there's nothing wrong with that. Even letting, if you prefer a man to lead in a situation, that's fine. That's your thing. But I mean, but that in that time, that was the thing. So I like how they show that, and it feels very authentic within the
Yeah.
story. I don't feel like they're beating me over the head with some weird message or anything like that. But but I get it. Everybody in this film is about submitting. Okay, it
Yeah.
is.
And
Right,
it's also
that's what it's about. So I agree
Submitting
with
to
what
authority.
Elitist had to say as well.
it's also
Mm,
that what I'm saying is there is a sexual element for the men too, in a kind of expectation way where they're telling the women this is what you got to do to please a man, but the reason you're pleasing the man is to be one of us, to be cool, right, accepted in this group. Well, if you want to be cool as a man in high school, you have to be the football player, the big macho guy, and getting laid is part of
yeah.
their expectation
Yeah,
too. Like if you're not getting laid, well,
Right.
you're one
Of
of the
course.
nerds.
exactly.
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
very
I
true.
totally agree with that.
It's on
But
both
like,
sides. It's there.
but ultimately, that's why I'm saying I feel like what they're being taught is a distraction from fulfilling their individual potentials, right? Like it's like instead of them choosing what that potential might be, they're being force fed it from above, right? And they've internalized it so much that they're even doing it to each other. So it's not like, oh, it's the teachers and the schools and the football coaches doing it. It's actually the students um reproducing that hierarchy themselves through their own rituals that they create. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to, unless somebody wants to like talk a little bit more about this, I was going to kind of pivot away from it a
Oh
little bit.
no,
We can go back to it if you have any more thoughts on it.
no.
But
That's
but
fine.
I wanted to like kind of explore, like what you were saying a bit more, because I found that really kind of interesting and something. Again, because I just never thought about the film. I just was like, this is just a really fun, cool film. So, like, let me just put it on, watch it, and have fun. And it works as that. It really does work as a, just a fun piece of entertainment like that. But yeah, if you could tell me like just a little bit more before we go on to like favorite moments, favorite characters, and quotes and stuff. Just a little bit more about how you see like that tension between individuality and like it being like the kind of great American story about like becoming, that moment when you become an individual or take control of your own destiny almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're watching the film as a 3-act, classic storytelling mechanism, act one is like, okay, all the ritual stuff that we were just talking about expectations in life. The football player's got to sign this thing that says he won't smoke weed and hang out with the losers. The women have to get on their knees and beg men for sex to be accepted into the cheerleading squad. Uh, the nerds, they're not invited to the party. Like there's all these expectations of what you're supposed to be. And then throughout the film in act 2 and act 3, it's all about everybody going to the party. And then you start to see them thinking about like, maybe I shouldn't just take this at face value. The nerds are saying, I'm going to do something different. The one guy stands up and gets in a fight because he's tired of being bullied. The blonde-haired guy decides to ask a girl out. The redhead girl goes after Matthew McConaughey because she's tired of just doing the same thing. The football player decides not to sign that piece of paper because of that conversation that he has with Matthew McConaughey's character on the football field, because he's not going to let the coach decide for himself. So I'm saying everybody in that movie is either deciding to stay in the same place or change from Act 1 to Act 3, and you see that unfold. So I don't see how it could be about anything else almost in a way, because it's like it's all about people manifesting the moment of like I'm deciding who I become, and like
right. And I think that you gave really good examples, which was the like that bully O'Banion, who I fucking love.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious. It's I think it's Ben Affleck's best role I've ever seen him in. To be honest,
It's good, but I don't know if it's his best, but it's
either that or what's that latest Fincher
he's
one?
quite he's quite douchey, but it's perfection at the same time.
Yeah,
you know?
Go. Yeah. So you said something about like explain that how you said that showed somebody who wasn't taking charge of their choices in a way that, you know, and you said the same thing about Matthew McConaughey's character as well.
Yeah, I think that Matthew McConaughey and Ben Affleck's character represent like people that are blissfully ignorant to like the fact that they're not making by not making a choice to be different, they're making a choice that they're going to be stuck, like flunking out of high school, picking on kids, paddling them, living in the glory days of I was a football player and I had this seniority over this group. Matthew McConaughey's like, I'm going to work for the city and I have this car, but I'm not going to leave this town. I'm not going to try to better myself or go back to school. I'm going to try to sleep with high school girls. It's like people that are living in the past and people that are choosing to look to the future.
Yeah.
Right. And do you think I was thinking as well, like in an ironic way, I'm not sure about this. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into this, but like I was thinking that resentment that they have as they go more and more like trapped, as they become more and more trapped in this town and realize, you know, hey, like the game's over. Now I'm too old to even, I'm not young and attractive anymore. I'm not, you know, whatever. And I'm getting older and I'm still staying in the same place. Like they're almost going to end up resenting, you know, those kids to the point that they become the guy who chases the kids, right, with the gun, right? Like I feel like he might have been like the high school bully, right, like back in the day, and now he's stuck there and he's made nothing of his life, and now he just resents those, you know, those very kids that,
right,
you know,
or they. I was just thinking that, like, as you were saying it, the same thought was coming to me that like they're going to become some high school principal or a teacher or a cop or something, and they're still going to have influence over that little town, because those are the kind of people.
Yeah,
I've known those types of people in my life that formative experience that they have, that resentment leads them to like this kind of mad grab for power, where it's like I still need to have control over this little world that I understand, and then they inflict that cycle that you were talking about back onto the new generation.
Right. What do you think of that, Ashley? What?
I mean, I agree. The only point that I was going to make originally was just talking about when you, it's like what I talked about, how brave that these characters were to the ones that took the chance, and you know, they were the younger characters in the film. You know, just like he says, you know, Matthew McConaughey, his character's stuck, right? He's not going anywhere. He's not progressing. And then going back on something I know he said he's done debating on Pickle's point when he talks about these characters that they don't really have an arc, that they really don't go anywhere. I disagree with that, because we see them recognize that moment. They learn the lesson. So the arc is the lesson learned. Unfortunately, yeah, that's just the beginning of it. We don't get to see the next step, but their arc is the lesson that they learn in making that change, and we don't get to see it progress further. But yes, that is I feel like that's the essential arc of these characters.
You get an A+.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you do as well. And one of the things we haven't talked about is like this film it follows these characters only in one day. And that's one of the beautiful things I think about the movie. I mean, I know a lot of, you know, I guess especially coming of age films follow that format of following the kids.
But
So
it
that
does
the
it better.
film,
It does it
so
better than most of those films.
yeah,
That's the
no, true.
difference.
True. But and I was going to say that though that's why those films always feel so comforting in a way, because you feel like you're watching things in real time almost, right? Like whereas a film that over a week or over a year or something like that, it's a little less easy to kind of engross yourself as if you're actually there right at that moment and sharing the moment with them. But yeah, like going back to what you were saying, is I think that one day thing kind of highlights these arcs really, really well, because what the arcs are ultimately telling you is, hey, this is what you can imagine for each character almost where this kid is going, right? So like, for instance, I think of Mitch, and I think, he's not going to be friends with these other kids anymore. Even if he wants to, he might end up being that cool guy, right? Like the cool kid who helped him out, like and brought him in to become one of the cool kids, right? But he's probably not going to be as tight with those kids anymore.
He's an all-star baseball pitcher. What are you talking about? He's going to be so cool, too.
Yeah, because they plucked him out of this ritual to become one of them, and the same with that girl.
Because they gained respect for him in that moment, because he showed himself to be a man. When under the pressure, he still strikes that guy out. And it's not even necessarily about being a man. It's just in general. Like when you have people like in the background, coming at you, and you can overcome that. That's a good moment. And he was able to earn that respect, in that moment, because he's able to do that. So he earns the respect. On top of that, in this time, he's a great athlete. He's a great pitcher. So yeah, he's cool. But and he has some of these character moments that show that he can rise to the occasion. But, I mean, so for the issues that I have with Mitch, overall, I think he's a good character.
He's a good character. He's definitely and I agree with what you're saying, absolutely. But I would say it's almost a little bit more arbitrary as well. Like, it's just he was really fortunate that specific kid, turned up at that point and took him home. And yet, this just cosmic luck that happened to him at that point may end up defining who he is for the rest of his school career, which again, his school career is going to end up defining who he becomes and how he feels about himself. Like, oh, I'm the kind of guy who girls like. I'm the kind of guy who is popular and is liked in school.
But is he the popular guy that makes it out, or is he the popular guy that gets stuck? What do we think?
Oh, I think he's probably going to make out. He's probably going to make it out.
What do you think, Elitist? I'm curious. Just like a quick thought. What do you think, he makes it out, or is he stuck?
I think he makes it out and he comes back.
And sometimes people make it and they come back to help their community. So there's nothing wrong with that either. So I feel like he makes it, I really do.
I basically think the only people who really are going to make it to do something beyond what like society has deemed they ought to do, and therefore is like set them on a path, is probably Cynthia. And that kid, really. Like, I think the rest of them are going to end up trapped doing things that.
But you can make it out. But you can make it out, but still fit into a narrative in a path that was set for you to begin with, right?
True.
You could be set up to be the best athlete, to be set up to get yourself into a university, to get yourself out of this small town, to elevate you to the next level, to get you that degree, to get you that successful job. Because with sports, that in my town was the ticket for so many people. It's how you get there. It gets you out and you stick to that path because you're a football player and that's what you're good at. And that's the label. You can't be anything other, right? And we see that, they were learning that in this film, so that's why I say that under those Texas football elements that are there, it's not a football movie in the classic sense, but it's there. And that is I can relate to that, and I know Elitist can, because that's, we're football crazy here, but not like Texas. And I always, it's always a good thing when you have that Texas football element, especially in a high school film as well, because it's very important.
All right. Now we've talked about, no, it's cool. It's cool. Does anybody else want to talk about like anything to do with the meaning? Because I was going to move on to something else, but I don't want, if anyone feels like there's something they haven't said about like the meaning of the movie or something that's highlighted or whatever, do let me know now. And what the hell does JG mean? I think Mitch is going to follow a similar story line to Pink's.
Randall Pink Floyd.
Oh right, I see. For God's sake,
you got to do what Randall Pink Floyd wants to do, man.
Man, you got to do what Randall Pink Floyd's got to do, man.
Oh my god.
What was that, man?
Amazingly amazing.
Just do the rest of the stream in your southern accent, please.
Please do.
I can't, man. I cannot. So what I was gonna do is like,
it warms my heart.
Ask you about favorite characters and favorite moments, and if you want to bring up a favorite quote so that we could talk about it quickly and see if it's one of our favorite quotes, then feel free to do that. I'm gonna ask you to bring up a quote of mine, which I think
Oh, you want me to bring up quotes? Here,
or a moment.
Okay. You want me to play it?
No, but yeah. What's yours? Yeah, like you can.
Oh, my moment is like I've already brought it up. Is when I said it doesn't age well now, but I don't really give a shit. When he talks about how I'm not good at remembering the quote, because sometimes I don't remember. I haven't seen it enough times in my mind to remember exactly. But when he's talking about how, the aging of the high school girls and how they get younger, he gets older. I love that moment. I love Matthew McConaughey in this movie because, like I said, to me, that's what makes Matthew McConaughey great. Excuse my language. And I think that sometimes he has a lot of misses, but when he hits, he hits. And this is just like, to me, he shines. He's not in a lot, but when he's there, you see the charm, and you just see him playing this exaggerating version of himself, and it's just great to see. So I can pull it up if you want me to pull it up.
Pull it up.
Like find it. You all,
Elitist, what's your take on that scene? Iconic.
Yeah, I dig it. And I also sent a link for whoever wants to pull it up for my favorite moment. So
yeah, I didn't want to pull mine up, so if you could look for it, and then I'm going to talk about that character as well, because I'll tell everyone who my favorite character in the film is.
One of the funniest parts of the movie to me, because it's so ridiculous but it's so accurate, is when that one bully shows up to the party and he says, "I came here to drink beer and kick ass."
Yeah,
I came here for two things: to drink beer and kick ass.
I love him as well. I think one of my maybe I should pull up that moment, because all my moments are not the deep moments. The funniest, the things that get me are the funny moments in the film. I fucking love them.
Wow, I'm having sound. I can't even. Probably with my. It's doing that again. I hate when it does.
Technical difficulties.
But yeah, I need somebody. Can you look this up for me, Film Elitist? Do you know when the guy is, the bully is showing his new engine for his car?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great part.
Yeah, my sound is not working for me to play it at all. So it's like horrible light here hanging.
And Film Elitist, you can't do it.
No, it's my sound. I have to go figure out my settings because it does that sometimes, and I've messed with it, played with it, and I can't fix it. I've got to go and figure out what's happening when it does that.
All right.
It's just weird.
I will do this, but it might cause a little bit of interruption. I'm going to
I
show
got it.
mine.
Sorry, I really
I
had.
got
I
it
was
if
like,
you want me
I
to do
hate.
it.
Yeah, whoever.
Yep.
I hate it. It's not working.
I hope this is the right scene.
Oh, you can share it?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, yeah, share it.
The lights horrible again.
Is it working?
Coast is backing right here, all right? 411
Oh, right. This is my scene. Okay.
Edelbrock intake. Scored over 30, 11-1. Pistons, turbojet, 390 horsepower. We're talking some fucking muscle.
Hey, man, I know you got this thing out of a comic book. I saw the ad, 295. It's right next to the sea monkeys, man. You see that over there? That's white light.
That's just my favorite. One of my favorite lines. I don't know why that kills me so much. It's right there next to the sea monkeys, man. It's just a stupid, like, funny line, like I love in the movie. But pull up Ashley's scene, please, if you can, Elitist.
When he's talking about the high school girls right outside the pool, that scene right there.
And then pull up your one as well. I have one more that I want to show because it's just my favorite character. So, who is your favorite character, though, Ashley, from the movie, or like your like
so
say
hard.
top three or something?
I guess if I'm going to pick my favorite character overall, it's so hard. I'm gonna stick with Mitch, even though I have issues. I do feel that he is the heart of the movie. I like him. I just don't like those aggressive facial things, and it just I don't like that scene a lot, unfortunately. But I think he's the best for me. Cynthia would be. I really like Cynthia a lot. It's hard for number three. I have to come back because number three, I go back and forth with two characters, and so it's so. Give me a minute, and I'll give you my number three.
Anyone else? Let me know your favorite quotes from the film. So JG says well, listen, you ought to ditch the two geeks you're in the car with now and get in with us, but that's all right. We'll worry about that later. I'll see you there. All right.
Your southern accent is Oscar worthy, dude.
No, it's terrible. But that's please do. But yeah, that is a great moment indeed.
Ashley's,
and I imagine that's how JG was in high school as well. I bet you that was him.
I think number three.
It's not sharing the sound, dude.
Yeah, you got to click the little box at the bottom. As close as he is, I think it's O'Bannon. Because I hate him so much. And
I'm all out of beer.
Good. I think that's number three. I think so.
Emily, I'm
Ben
all out
Affleck
of
is
beer.
great. That's a good one. Yeah, Ben Affleck is great too. So.
That's right. What have you been up to? Same old shit, man.
Yeah?
Working for the city.
Working man, huh?
Cool though, man.
JC, something like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's where all the girls are, right? But on the other hand, man, I just as soon keep working. Keep a little change in my pocket. Rather spend my time
He's so tight. Oh my gosh.
Just that subtle look.
He's so chill, dude.
So you're a freshman, right? Yeah. So tell me, man, how's the
It's so terrible. We shouldn't find this funny.
What you gonna end up
It's
doing
amazing.
soon, I know that.
What are the latest freshman chicks?
No, man, I tell you. That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
It's creepy, but it's so tight. It's just like he's so wrong, but it works. That's what it was. And I mean, now we don't obviously need that in 2021, films or but for that time, it's perfect. It's amazing.
Well, it's authentic to who the character is. it's not like the filmmaker is saying, "Hey, this is a." Well, he is actually saying it's kind of like he makes it a little bit.
Someone
cool,
says
but he's
like
not
you. I'm
saying
surprised
that-
you don't end up in jail. They say that to him. So it's not like they're completely, you know. I mean, that comes up. You know, they're like, hey, you know. Even then, it's there's that question of like, are you doing? You're not right here, really. Maybe you know what I'm saying. I'm surprised you're getting away with it, but it's still just but it makes sense for the time.
And Emily says, we all know that guy though. When you're in high school, he's the cool older dude that everyone wanted to hang with. But when you get older, it's just creepy. Laughing my ass off. I knew him definitely. Luckily, it was like, that was when I was in A levels, so it wasn't like secondary school, so he wasn't doing anything illegal. But definitely was like in his 20s and like hanging out with us who were like 17 and 18, 19 kind of thing, which isn't, whatever. He's in his 20s, so but he was definitely that guy. Film Elitist, can you pull up my last quote? Because this is my favorite fucking character in the movie. I think pull up the quote.
I think possible. I know. What is this?
I fucking love
you want to pull the quote up, or you want me to pull the clip?
The clip where she says that. It's in the private.
One sec.
Thank you. You're doing great, Film Elitist. And you have to share. Have you shared your favorite clip yet?
No, I haven't. I'll do it after this.
Yeah. And character. I don't want to know.
All right, here we go.
This is who I wish I could be. Basically,
this woman.
Don't give it away. No spoilers. Just bring it up.
Please. Here we go.
Yeah.
This is who I wish I could be. This is my.
Yeah, I knew it.
All of you. So let's get out of here. All right. What are you looking at? Wipe that face off your head, bitch.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
Face off your head, bitch.
I knew it was one of those moments.
And the thing about it is because it's not that I watch this movie maybe every like 5-7 years or something. And I always forget that line because it's not like a big deal. It's not something everyone always remembers and quotes and stuff. So every time I watch the film, it gets me every single time. So yeah, she's
Emily. She gives zero fucks. She gives zero fucks. None. None are given on that day. She don't give a shit, dude. Like, not at all. Yes, Emily, 100. I agree with that completely, and that's what makes her amazing.
Oh, he's the Heath Ledger of this movie. Yeah, you're talking about Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he's fucking great. I like the stoner guy, the other stoner guy as well. I think he's pretty funny in the movie.
No? He's funny, but I feel like he doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, he's just there for those little funny moments. Yeah. And sometimes it gets like, too character acting sometimes overly for me with him a bit. But yeah. I get it. I like the moment though when he, the best moment for me is, and maybe it's just a simple moment, is when he's like, "Are you cool?" Yeah. I love that moment, and like his reaction to me, I really like that. Some of the other moments, they were okay, but I feel like that was his best moment.
Oh, come on. When he's discussing the aliens.
Okay, like, that's good too.
And what was it? George Washington, he was a cool cat, man.
He
was growing weed crops, man. It's like
he's just a whole other level of it,
But Film Elitist, come on.
I know that guy.
Yeah, I definitely know him. So go on, and do you want to intro it, or do you want to? We'll talk about it after.
We can talk about it after.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Section 12 or any other illegal activity.
My shadow.
Spider, babe. Found that in the glove compartment, man.
You're the third person who's given me this today. God.
Well, what do you reckon you're gonna do?
I don't know, man. I'll probably end up signing it. I just don't want to give in so easy.
Man, it's the same bullshit they tried to pull in my day. You know, if it ain't that piece of paper, some other choice they're gonna try and make for you. You gotta do what Randall Pink Floyd wants to do, man. Let me tell you this. The older you do get, the more rules are gonna try to get you to follow. You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Oh, that's a great moment. There's so many of those moments. It's just that is so Matthew McConaughey too. Like with the quotes and like it's just that is just if you think about it, it's just him. You know, it's amazing to see. I absolutely love it. He's just, he's just on.
Yeah.
On.
Yeah.
In so many of his parts in this movie. And Pickle, I agree.
Yeah. And Film Elitist, I was going to say I've forgotten one. I'm not going to get you to pull this up, but I remember the first time I saw this, I must have just like laughed till the point where I was just, when you do that thing where it's like you snort and like fluids come, it's not pretty, but it was just so fucking funny to me at that moment. And it's when the kid's like saying, oh, how he hates people and he's a misanthrope, and then he goes, so what do you really want to do in life? And he goes, I want to dance.
Yes,
I found that so fucking hilarious at the time. But Film Elitist, why that moment? And then who is your favorite character or characters? And
I don't know if I have a favorite character. I think characters, I like McConaughey. I like Randall Pink Floyd. I like him. I really like Slater the Stoner. Yeah, like that, and then I like the one nerd that stands up for himself, the one that says, "I want to dance." He's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic throughout the movie as well. I mean, who's that actor? Goldberg, right?
Yeah, Adam Goldberg.
Adam Goldberg. He's got such great comedy timing, and when he goes, "The aggressive monkey motherfucker," like, that whole build up where he's trying to like hype himself up for the fight. It's fucking hilarious. Like, the grease monkey, right? And you so want him to fucking beat this kid up. Like I was, but it's realistic in that way that like obviously this kid is much tougher. But I was just hoping the kid was really like a pussy at heart and like he'll actually get the upper hand over him. But yeah, he got worked. He got basically worked in that fight. And who like someone like set him up as well a little bit in that fight as well, because someone's like I don't know if he convinces himself of it or someone else convinces him that when you start
Randall
a fight,
Randall and Slater and those guys, they're telling him to stand up for himself.
Yeah, but they say when you start a fight, usually only lasts like a few seconds, so you'll get the hit in, and then he's not even going to get a chance to hit you back. That's bullshit. Everyone like gets at high school. The thing that you do is you get out of the way and you go fight, and get everybody to watch. So yeah, they didn't give him the best advice when it came to that. But yeah, I mean I don't. I mean, the only other thing I wanted to mention about the film is perhaps like the backdrop of what was going on politically at the time in the 70s, and how I think like that's an important it's there as the kind of subtext of the film, like this is on the verge of like the hippie movement and the Vietnam War protests and all of those kind of things that were gonna shake up the foundations of America, that those kids are directly gonna go into, right? Like so as they come of age, that is the shit that they're going to be facing with. So I can imagine like Cynthia and those nerd kids are going to be going to, I don't know, Columbus or one of those kind of college campuses and end up being like in the hippie movement or part of the anti-war movement or stuff like that. So again, it's that thing of knowing the period of time and how historically significant it is for America, and then seeing the futures of these kids on the basis of that. You could see some of them becoming soldiers, for instance, like some of those football guys are prime for being recruited by the army, for instance, during that time as well. So did you ever think of that, or?
Well, I think the war is over.
What year? I
what
thought
year
it
was it? I thought.
Because
Oh no, because you're right. Because Mr. Payne says that.
Yeah, but what year is it though? That's because it's the 70s.
Let's check what year was the film set in. I can't do anything on my computer because it will disrupt the stream. So if one of you guys could check what year the actual film was supposed to be set in, that would be great.
Pretty sure it's 78, but we can double check.
What did you say?
I thought it was 78, but we can double check it.
Yes. Yeah. Are you checking, or did you want me to check?
I'm checking it.
Okay.
Emily says she thinks it's 76.
Well, 75 is when the Vietnam War ended. So
75.
That's in 76.
That's the year. 75 is when the Vietnam War ended. So
okay, all right. So there was.
That's why for some reason I don't know why, and I was thinking it was earlier than that. I couldn't remember, but so it's but very fresh after it ending, and so.
Would the counterculture movement then have still been going on?
Yeah,
for quite a long time. Yeah.
Civil
rights.
Well, I actually think that they make a point to show the irony of that, because the one redhead, she thinks it's going to be like that, like it's going to be more social movements and stuff, and she's like, well, the 70s sucked and it always skips a decade, so the 80s are going to be fucking radical, but the 80s were anything but radical.
Right. No. They were the most right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But during 76 and 77, that's when the heroin boom started happening, in New York, and we get to see that. I even just last night, well, actually this morning, decided, I'm gonna watch American Gangster again, and it kind of goes into that story of like that time period right after the Vietnam War, and then everybody thinks about crack being like this beginning of war on drugs, when really it begins right after the Vietnam War in New York City with
heroin
and what it did to these soldiers that came home and then just became popular on the streets. And so I'm not going to talk about American Gangster here. I know some people have issues with that movie, but I'd love to talk about it some other time, and you all let me know what you think.
I would love to, because I haven't seen it yet, so I can watch it and then have a discussion with you over it.
Yeah, and then there's another movie that I'd like for you to see about these two characters, and then we could do a whole thing about that, about Bumpy Johnson. It's just great, about these, black gangsters who learn from the mob. It's a cool thing. It's,
cool.
Really all right, I kind of went off topic a little bit.
Black mobsters matter. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but it's just like cool, when you see, I like love all that type of, the history of that.
Oh,
and
sure.
In the fact that it was so organized, and then in this story in American Gangster, the one thing that kind of starts to bring him down is something that he goes against his very nature. So good movie, and it's true, and it's such a good movie. There's some things, of course, that's embellished, but it's a good movie. And so about Bumpy Johnson too, I think it's Harlem Nights. I don't know if it's Harlem Nights.
Eddie Murphy?
Bumpy Johnson. No, it's not Harlem Nights. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it has Lawrence Fishburne is in it. He plays Bumpy Johnson, and I can't remember the fact that I can't remember the name of it's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to look it up and let you know. Sorry, but I'm sorry, I just got off topic.
It's Mr. Untouchable. Mr. Untouchable is a great documentary. We will talk about that after the stream because I want to wrap up very soon. But I was just going to say, like, just to finish off, just about some of your other Richard Linklater films that you like, because I think he's a fantastic director. I think he should be literally spoken of in the same light as someone like Scorsese. I guess Scorsese's done a lot more. But, you know, I if there's two filmmakers that I think are not given as much credit and are not spoken of in the same light as like a Quentin Tarantino or, you know, who else? It's like
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul Thomas Anderson, like that kind of thing. I think it's Richard Linklater, and I think it's Spike Lee in a way, because Spike Lee's early movies are fantastic. I think he's fallen off a little bit. That's a conversation to be had, but you know, at his when he was at his best, I think he was excellent. Or, you know, as I was again like a Woody Allen and stuff like that. But so I love Linklater. I think Dazed and Confused, actually, when you look at it in relation to those movies that he does, which were all set in Austin, Texas, there's a message coming out about like it's almost like it should be part of a series of films. They're all connected in a lot of ways. So I was just going to ask about some of your favorite films. Maybe you could pull up that list again, Ashley, of his, and we can just say like a couple of our other favorite. And in the chat, has anybody else watched Richard Linklater movies? What are your favorite Linklater movies?
Mine's Scanner Darkly. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I have, and but I need to watch it again because I don't remember much of it. But I did watch it when it came out because I was very excited for that one because I really like Waking Life. But
I think the ultimate mark of a good film to me.
You know, you're on mute, Ashley.
The ultimate mark of a good film or a good painting, any piece of art, literature, whatever, is that it just gets more relevant over time. You know, that's what I love about The Sopranos, for instance. But with A Scanner Darkly, when you go back and watch that movie, it's super relevant for like the current times when it comes to like surveillance states and police states and the loss of identity in the digital world and depression and the opioid crisis. It's fucking deep, man, and it's super dark too. No pun intended.
I have to watch it again, man. I thought it was really interesting, but it was almost too much for me at the time. I have to really sit down and watch that one again.
The guy that wrote the book, Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, of course I know it.
He did the stories that were adapted into Blade Runner, Minority Report, Total Recall. Like, he's one of the greatest science fiction writers of all time, and he was a super trippy guy.
I don't know if you've seen Man on a High Tower as well. The one where it's an alternate world where the Nazis.
In High Castle.
Oh, in the High Castle, yeah, Man in the High Castle, where the Nazis take over the world. That's a really good series. They did a take on it. That was a series, and he's an I mean, I don't like his writing, to be honest. Not that I don't like the ideas, I just don't like the way he writes. So I found it hard to get through some of his books, but all the stuff based on his books is fantastic. So I remember trying to read, what did I try? I tried to read Man in a High Castle of his. And maybe something else, but yeah, I need to go again and try and reread these things. But have you ever read any of his books, Philip K. Dick?
I've only read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the one that was turned into Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was fucking awesome.
Okay, I have to try and reread some of his stuff. Actually, good movies by Richard Linklater. Do you know any that are, like you like?
There's several that I like, but I like Boyhood a lot. I like School of Rock. I like that's.
Yeah.
That's like a fun movie. There, I really enjoy it. I love Suburbia. So and then
Suburbia,
even before sunset, before midnight, I like those movies. So it's Slacker, of course. I mean, it's hard for me. Like, I don't know. Favorite one might be.
Wow, you've watched a lot of I think you've watched more Linklater movies than I have.
I really like Bernie too. I can't forget about Bernie. Oh my God. And that movie was just very simple, but I love Jack Black in that movie. Bernie is a good movie. I'm
loving my subs, man. You are a cultured bunch. I
really, 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 really think, and maybe it's a little controversial, is Bernie. I love that movie.
Wait, what is Bernie?
It's a true story.
It's about
the way the story is told is absolute. Go ahead, Elitist.
It's a true story about a guy from East Texas who was working for this old rich lady, and he grew to resent her, and he ended up killing her and trying to cover it up.
Oh wow!
But he's such a likable guy. And even the way that it's told throughout the story, you're kind of like, okay, it's done in a way where it's real, but it's very dark, and it has a lot of dark humor in it. And it's just because of the kind of character he is. He plays that good guy very well, but underneath he's resentful, and he's angry. And it's a good movie. You should watch it. It's a true story.
I will. I mean,
I like it. Jack Black is really good, and I mean, he's good in School of Rock. But I'm talking about Bernie. He's in Bernie.
He's the guy that kills her.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a good movie.
That's probably.
And I remember when I first saw it, I was not expecting.
Yeah, Jack Black to be so good.
No, just to have that connection with that movie. To really, it's such a good movie. Go ahead, Elitist.
Sorry, I was going to say probably the reason why I haven't watched School of Rock or Bernie is because I don't know if you know this, but I fucking hate Jack Black. I cannot stand
I like him in certain things. I like him. I don't like him in everything, but I like him in School of Rock. I like him in Bernie, and I like him in Tropic Thunder. So I mean, I can't say he's all bad, but there's a lot of times that I'm like, this is so bad. But he has good moments, and and I feel that. So a lot of his good moments, outweigh people who have, mediocre across the board with their films and how they come across the screen. He has these 3 roles that I think he shines. And then like Kung Fu Panda, he's freaking amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So he does good stuff.
It's just one of those things like chalk on a chalk on a whiteboard.
Yeah, it can be like that. Yeah.
I don't know, something about Jack Black, but I'm gonna give it a go because it's Linklater. I'll give any Linklater.
He's good.
I've got to say, like, for me, his magnum opus is Slacker. I fucking love that movie, man. It's one of those movies. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it, and then I watched it again after Dazed and Confused because that's an easier Linklater movie to get into. And then I watched it again after that, and I was like, wow, this is just like really just unique film, and you've never seen anything like it. And I don't know how he did it. Like, to make a film that is so meandering, be interesting the whole way through. There's no central character, as Pickle likes to say, there's no real arcs as such of characters. Nothing. It has no it doesn't have a 3-act structure even. You know, it's just following people on the streets of Texas, Austin, Texas. You know, kind of doing their thing. Actually, if one person could pull up a scene from the movie, it would be fantastic.
Elitist will probably have to do it because my sound is still so.
Yeah. It's fuck. It's the guy who talks about how he hates his dad. He's pissed on his grave.
I'm having issues.
If you put Slackers piss on dad's grave, I think it should come up. But and then the other films that I really love of his are the Before Sunset. Those movies are amazing to me. Like, if you watch those movies at the right time in your life, it's like they're growing up with you. I'm waiting for somebody to respond. Film Elitist, anybody?
I can't find that clip. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But something interesting did happen, though. I was looking at Boyhood, and it got nominated for all these Oscars and stuff, and it's just interesting to me. It was only 7 years ago, but how far have the standards fallen? That year, the Best Picture nominees had The Grand Budapest Hotel, Birdman, Boyhood, and there was something else on there. But yeah, there were 4 like amazing films, and now it's like you're lucky to get one of those types of films a year.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm having my camera's like annoying me right now. I feel like I'm cut off. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I can't find the scene either. You're right. Anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, but you know what? Minari was really good this year, and so was One Night in Miami. They were pretty decent movies, but the rest of them were just like okay. Oh no, the Mama's whatever thing was really good as well. The one with Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, but the year I'm talking about had Whiplash, Birdman, Grand Budapest Hotel, and Boyhood.
Well, okay, I'll say this: One Night in Miami and Minari are good enough. Tell me those movies again.
Birdman,
Whiplash,
Grand Budapest Hotel, and Boyhood, which is considered
Boyhood. They're all amazing movies, but I would say Minari and One Night in Miami are as good as them.
One Night in Miami.
Have you seen Minari?
Well, no, I haven't seen it, so I have to see it.
It's fantastic. I know it seems like one of those films. It was one of those films that I didn't think I'd like. Man, it's really good. It's really funny and sweet.
I just don't feel that I used to care so much about, these films that were nominated, and it felt like it meant something then, and now it just seems like it doesn't really mean anything anymore, because it's the films are not necessarily at the level, and then the hidden agendas behind the award show just kind of ruin it. Not trying to get political there, but I don't necessarily like this fact that they're, the attempts of possibly trying to meet quotas and things like that. It doesn't, like, whoever in these categories give the best performances should be the nominees, and like we shouldn't be worrying about these silly agendas. And that's just, I don't care anymore about the Oscars, unfortunately.
No, I agree.
I just watch the films that kind of pull and drag at me, and any of the other ones sometimes, like Nomadland is okay. It's beautiful, but it's
Nomadland. I wasn't. Yeah, like
it's boring.
I get the feeling I wouldn't like it, but yeah, no. As I was. I agree with you, and films like Moonlight, and Black Panther, right? I'm just like, dude, why would you, and the shame is that it does two things that really annoy me, which is it means that when there are genuine films that are made like by like an Asian filmmaker or a black filmmaker that are genuinely good and genuinely deserve to be there, people can look at them with suspicion and be like, oh, it's just because,
And see,
and One Night in Miami fucking deserves it.
Yeah,
it's
and the ones that really should win at times, I feel like they don't deserve it. And the ones that win, and then sometimes it's like they're making up for past mistakes. So they're just like kind of like correcting some wrongs for performances that don't necessarily deserve it. But it's just like, listen, it's a correction, right? It's a correcting course. And it's just, it's not the same to me. I used to care so much. I used to care, loved it. Like I had to see every film. If I hadn't seen it before, they were nominated, I had to see them. And now it's just like, I don't care anymore because it doesn't hold the same weight. Like I really don't.
And Film Elitist, I wanted to say one more thing, and then please do speak on this. I was just going to say that the other thing that really upsets me about it is, you have films like Black Panther or, Moonlight or whatever, and they're just like, they have the right team behind them who promote them properly, and then they get into the Oscars race. But then you've got films that genuinely are by black directors or black artists that deserve to be there, and they get, they get ignored. Like, what was it? It was called Blind Spotting. I think Blind Spotting was the year of either Black Panther or one of these other movies. Did you ever see Blind Spotting, guys?
No.
You have to pull it up. I don't think I have, but sometimes I might have seen it and just don't remember the title of the film. I have to see.
If you could pull it up, Film Elitist, and then please do respond. As well.
2018.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think. No, I have not seen this.
Watch it. It's like. Wait. Hold on. I think I have actually seen this. Yes, I've seen this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is such a good movie. Yes, I've seen that. And it deserves.
Yeah, it took me a minute. Like, yes, like the performance. It's like that is such an underrated movie. I pulled up and found just the trailer, but I could have found a clip, but my sound's not working. But yes, it's a good movie. I need to watch that again. See, Nerman, you just put that up there.
Yeah.
Because it's such an underrated film, and I remember thinking this is a good story. Very character-driven film, and the acting is spot on. It's overall the story. That is the type of film that should be nominated. Moonlight.
What a bore!
Whew.
What a fucking boring chore.
It was just like I didn't. I'm telling you, it just checked off so many freaking boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the story that they attempted to tell, right? But did I connect with it? Do I think it was worthy of the praise that it was given? Absolutely not. Is it Oscar worthy? No. I mean, maybe to be nominated, but no, not even, because it's just not a good movie.
It's not a good movie. Spike Lee has been getting lots of nominations. I don't think he deserves recently as well. But Film Elitist,
because you know why, that they're trying to fix that with him. For the movies he didn't get nominated for, just like with Denzel, he wasn't nominated for this, so they give it to him for that, right? That's just the catch-up game. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
I just wanted to make that last point.
I'll say the Spike Lee films I think should have been nominated after. Film Elitist, please, man.
No, I just don't think it's a coincidence that it's been about the last 3 to 5 years that it's really gone down the shitter. And I mean, look what happened in politics around that time.
It's just...
So, I mean, I'm not saying that I agree with one president or the other, but ridiculous that an entire industry went to shit over who was president, basically, and there's a direct correlation there.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would say it was also the Oscars so white thing.
Yeah, that had a big
I'm saying
part in it.
all of the political backlash, the overcompensation was a direct
spawned from an election, just like the Me Too movement. It was
Right.
all spawned from 2016. Okay,
Exactly.
Regardless of where you stand, in this country, a lot of things are politically motivated. You know, right? And we see the effects that it has in this country. So, and it was all based and spawned out of that idea, right?
100%.
And I agree, kind of like with the point Nerdman brought up before. You know, yes, there was a time when it was more, you know, that conservative line, you know, back, you know, 50 years ago, and even sometimes as we get into the 80s. But now they're trying to completely revert course on all of this stuff. That they're overcompensating and it's not authentic, and you're in trying to meet quotas and just nominate people just because that checks off a box is not the best way to go about it. And it's the films that don't get nominated that should be recognized.
Well, it's not just that. Now there are movies that would have gotten made 4 or 5 years ago that don't even get made because the only agenda is make a political movie or make an established horror movie or action movie or comedy. And it's like those movies don't get nominated for Oscars. But if it's a drama, it's going to have an agenda.
Yeah, and you know, the Blind Spotting, as I said, is one that should have got it. And you know, when you think about things like what was it? The horror movie, which was quite a good horror movie. It was all right. I thought it was a little bit overrated,
Get Out?
to be honest. Get Out.
I like Get Out.
Yeah.
Get
Out.
It's not a goddamn masterpiece, though. You know, like they made it out to be.
I mean,
really
for what it was, for the type of horror film it was very refreshing and different. It's not a masterpiece, but I can see the case for it and respect
to getting an Oscar nomination.
I really enjoyed it.
It won Best Screenplay.
But Moonlight, absolutely not. You know, some of the films I agree with. Moonlight, I don't agree with. As much as I do like Black Panther, no.
Black Panther should not have got nominated. No fucking way. And
Blind Spotting is like a authentic story about, you know, a Black experience, and it doesn't feel forced. It just feels like it's telling you a very natural story, and it progresses, you know, and it tells you, you know, what he goes through, what he's going through, and it's just real. It doesn't feel like there's this fake thing. There's not this overcrowding of bullshit. Like Moonlight is just so much bullshit crammed into one movie, and I guess it's artsy, but it's not. I don't.
Let me ask you this question real quick.
And the thing about Blind Spotting as well, like just to add on to that, is just it's also really just damn entertaining. You know, like it kind of strikes you as like some cross between a Spike Lee and Tarantino movie in places. Yeah. So it's really just got that entertainment factor. So you can just watch it as a fun, well, not a fun film. There's heavy themes. You might not you go away from it feeling like the best about the world, but at least during the middle of it, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna, you know, there's gonna be bits that, you know, are humorous to you. So yeah, Film Elitist, go for it.
I was just gonna say, if you've seen any of these movies, The Big Sick, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, or 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Have you seen any of those movies?
I've said the three billboards. I've seen that. Big Stick. I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, Lady Bird is really good too.
Lady Bird is good. I've seen The Shape of Water.
All of those were nominated alongside Get Out, and Get Out won the best screenplay over them.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got like Parasite was the only time it worked, just kind of coincidentally. because it was like, okay, well, it's a North Korean film, it's Asian, it's the first foreign film to ever win. It checks the political boxes, but it also deserved to win. But it's like,
Yeah, I like Parasite. Yeah,
it's the one time where I'm like, okay, the right movie won, but
it's like it checks the
Yeah.
boxes off, but it's deserving.
Right,
It's not just
But they know
here's
now
your
that they don't have
participation
to-
trophy.
most people don't have to worry about the quality as much anymore now, because now it's more about the message, and that's the opposite of art. That's the opposite of art. That's the opposite of creativity. It's like the messaging of what I'm trying to say from my own preconceived political biases or social biases or whatever are more important than the art I'm making. And I get
Right.
rewarded based on the social message rather than the merits of the art, which is ridiculous because it's like, if it was the opposite, if it was a bunch of right-wing movies with like really right-wing messages, people would realize how ridiculous all of this is. Because if Iron Man was a movie about Iron Man blowing up abortion clinics, I don't think anybody would be down with that.
I mean, I think that a lot of people do get the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, wait a second. Wait. Let's rewind.
I know.
What's the equivalent left-wing message to blowing up abortion clinics?
I mean, I guess a movie like Cuck. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, well, or like just even just this.
No, tell me what happens in Cuck that would be equivalent to.
Well, I mean, Cuck is not an award-worthy movie. It was a giant critical failure. But someone made a movie called Cuck about a guy that becomes a cuck for a woman because he's watching like Ben Shapiro type guys on YouTube, and he has this slow descent into becoming a neo-Nazi and a cuck, and then he goes on like a white supremacist shooting spree, and it's like overhanded stuff about
that's vilifying him,
right.
As opposed to lionizing him, which is what you were talking about, which is like if Iron Man blew up abortion clinics, that would be saying that's a good thing to do, whereas the other thing is saying that it's a bad thing to do this, and that is a bad thing. The only thing is that it's also saying that watching Ben Shapiro might turn you into that. But you have to think that,
to be fair, a lot of these situations are related sometimes, and I'm not going to go down that road too much.
I was going to say, like the guy who killed those black people in the church, right? He was quoting what's his name, Sam Harris. He literally was in the police station. Like,
not all these situations are bad.
Sam Harris is liberal.
No, I know, but he was quoting Sam Harris.
But he was also supporting Nazi right-wing groups as well. It wasn't just that, okay?
But you know, it's like in the 90s, like Eminem and Marilyn Manson. I was telling my roommate this recently. They got blamed for a lot of school shootings and like this uprising of like alt culture, these kids that everybody was scared of. And it's like, it wasn't their fault, and anyone with a brain knows that. But now
I know. No, but also
speaking from a pulpit and actually giving a messaging. And the guy I'm talking about, the thing that he was quoting,
and these are all politically charged things.
The thing he was quoting from Sam Harris was the interview that he did with the guy who wrote The Bell Curve about black people having lesser IQs. Right, and he was talking about like this diatribe about all of, how they're lesser because of that, and they're more criminally. I'm not
saying that people.
My point is, like, I know that most people who do that are not people who necessarily listen to those guys. I'm not trying to say that all
we're just saying these situations happen.
But I'm saying, when you're saying that a liberal filmmaker makes a film about a guy who does that and vilifies them, I don't think that's equivalent to like Iron Man blowing up.
A horrible example of that is The Hunt, right? Where these dumb liberals, right, are hunting these people.
Right.
That movie is ridiculous and so stupid on so many
Wait.
levels. I don't know if you've seen it. I
I've
won't say
seen
too
it.
much
I
about it.
like that movie a little bit.
I
But
don't like
I don't think I have the same
that.
interpretation as you do. Of
It's
it.
just, I mean, I get what the message is, but I just don't like the basic imagery that we're, yeah, it was based off this fake ideal, but then they actually set out and they do this. It's just, I just think that that's just, it's not a good look, because it's still to me,
We have to
expressing
talk about that
aggression
movie. We have to
on
do a
the other
dedicated show
side,
on that
because
movie.
you're actively killing people who support somebody in the film. Yeah, and I know that the bigger, deeper, whatever, but I still don't like that. Regardless, it's
Wait, no, but
really,
say
it's
what the
something
bigger,
that they
deeper
do.
thing. What was the bigger, deeper message of that movie to you? Because I think it was criticizing the liberals.
Yeah, it was, but I'm just saying. But at
She's saying
first,
it's
the
heavy-handed.
way it's presented, it's like, here we are. We have to kill these supporters. Like it's just like, and always being so negative. I don't agree with anything that Trump has said or done, right? But like, I feel like, calling people always, disgusting, because not everybody who supports him is necessarily a specific way. And I think it just kind of fed into that narrative a little bit. And yeah, it might have been criticizing the liberals, but it was also coming at other people from another perspective, and then also saying, hey, let's go out and murder them. So it's both sides here. And I just don't like that.
Yeah, go on,
Marcus
Phil.
comment in the comment section.
Yeah.
I understand. He said, "What is a positive right-wing message?" Which I think what he's saying is like left-wing. At least when they might get clunky with it sometimes, but they have a lot of positive messages when it comes to equality and racial equity and stuff. But you can say that there's plenty of people on the right. It's not an inherently right or left-wing position to say that you want racial equality, or that you know what I'm saying. Like that's where all this shit gets stupid. Is like there are people in the middle, the right, the left. That there are people that aren't political at all that love gay people and they want everyone to live in harmony together. It's not inherently right or left wing. And when we start thinking about things like that, it's like you start weaponizing people into groups, and that's
But
what
these are also both of these political parties. To be fair, have at moments capitalized on these things. So I mean, it's part of the DNA of the political structure. This way over here, this way over there, and they've grasped onto those ideals, both sides. And that's why I say the two-party political system in this country fails on so many levels, because it doesn't represent those people in the middle, those people who don't see themselves as a Democrat or Republican like me. And I'm more of a libertarian, but still I'm an independent overall. I don't feel like there's not one specific political party that's going to define me and where I stand on specific issues, because certain things people might say, oh, you're progressive on that, but I'm also very can be very right on other things too, I guess. So it's a mix, and I'm tired of like, you have to have this label. You're this, so this is where you should vote. And if you don't vote here, then you're not really that.
Guys, I'm going to say this because there's some interesting questions being asked. And what we're going to do is we're going to move over to Film Elitist, because this really is supposed to be about Dazed and Confused. Not sorry. I love it. Like, don't worry. But we are actually going to move over. Do you mind? I'll talk to you actually about it after. But we're going to move over to...
I have to wait an hour for the other people that we're going to come on. So if you want to talk now, we can do it.
I
don't
want to mix this up with this.
What time is your stream?
6:30 Central, so I guess 7:30 your time.
Okay. Because we're
I'll say this before we leave. We can stay on for another 10 minutes, and I'll say quickly that I think you're right, that the assumption that all people of the right are harbor some kind of racial animus or don't believe in equality or fair fairness between genders and sexualities, I think is preposterous, and I think it's also it's also self-defeating, because if you're trying to persuade people of your position by pegging them as some kind of enemy towards you and seeing them in that light is never going to convince them or persuade them in any way, right? It's only going to push them further and probably encourage them more into becoming the kind of people that you presume they are. So I think that's a terrible approach to things. That being said, some of the reason for these beliefs that the right might more typically harbor those kind of beliefs is because of the history of the right when it comes to these kind of social issues. I mean, as you said, like bombing abortion, or not bombing abortion, but not being supportive of something like the institutions of abortion, or against gay marriage, or against all those.
But if we're going to do that, we have to be
it's kind of coupled. But as I said, don't remember to address both my points, because I'm not just trying to say the latter. I'm just trying to give some kind of a reason for why that might be a view.
Right. I'm just saying that if we're going to do that, and I understand it, the KKK, Jim Crow South, and all of this other shit was started by the Democratic Party. So
yeah, but come on, we know
that was the old Democratic Party that shifted and
Democrat.
changed. So that argument, Elitist, it's not really holds up because of what happened. Because
the Republican Party,
why did
it's not the same Republican Party?
Why did they shift?
That's not the same Republican
Party. It's a completely different. It's a really. I don't like when people use this because
that's not that the modern day Republican Party shift because of the Civil Rights Voting Act and because of these things and because of the support that it garnered from these Democrats, right? And then so they shifted away from it because they didn't stand for it. The Republicans, they became, the Republicans then shifted to the Democratic Party who were on that other side. And so it was a split, they weren't, it's not the same parties before. I hear that argument all the time, and you gotta be really factual about why is that shift there? Because of these things that happen.
Let him finish what he's saying.
I do that.
The point I'm making is, in the same way that the old Democratic Party changed, the Republican Party changed too. And I'm sure some of those people, it was just to save face. But modern day 2021, the plurality of the Republican voters that are polled are not anti-gay marriage. They're not anti-racial equality. They might still have some views that people disagree with, like anti-abortion and stuff, but they're not bigoted white supremacists. That's all I'm saying. And that constant theme being represented in films is annoying and tired and ridiculous to me. And I just want to address Chillmonger and say what people in Hollywood would call a right-wing position, I guess, or you could just, whatever, say you're anti-abortion, right? If I made a $180 million film that was a vehicle for me to express my anti-abortion views, you would probably think that was ludicrous. That's all I'm saying.
No, I know, but like you have to be really careful, because when you say that, you know that Lyndon B. Johnson basically it was when he pushed through the it's a Civil Rights Act or whatever voting act. Basically, that is exactly why the Democrats in the South left the Democratic Party and shifted to the Republicans. But the Republicans always go on like, look, you see, the Democrats were the ones who were against the civil rights. It wasn't. It was actually the Republicans who went over, the Democrats who
I didn't
went
say they
over
were
to the
against
Republican Party
civil
because of
rights.
that. And to address your point about, like, when you poll right wing, whatever, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is the reason for the suspicion that exists today is because of that history. That's all I'm saying.
The history of the Democratic Party is racist too. I'm not talking about the Civil Rights Act. I'm talking about the
Oh
KKK.
yeah.
That's the point I'm making. Is that it's
Oh
all suspect because it's all about getting people on your side and appealing to a base, right? And the Republicans definitely appeal to the base that's more populist and they're afraid of immigrants and all that stuff. I understand all of
yeah.
that. All I'm saying is there was a time in history where the Democrats were pro-slavery. They started the KKK. They did all this horrible shit. So if you're gonna just say, well, we have to always judge them on the past, that's not fair either. I'm making that point. I'm agreeing with you guys.
I'm not. You're conflating like a lot of different things there.
No,
like,
I'm not. No, I'm not. The
No,
Civil
no.
Rights Act is not the same thing as the Jim Crow South, pre-civil rights, and the KKK and how the KKK was formed. The KKK was formed by Southern
But
Democrats.
those guys, yeah, but those Southern Democrats, because
Yeah.
of the Civil Rights
They
Act,
became Republicans,
became Republicans.
and those
So
Republicans
those
now,
were the same people. So you might as well
right?
just call that
Can I address?
the Democrats in the South. You might as
Are
well
there-
just call them the Republicans because that's what
Okay.
they were.
Fair enough. Are the Republicans now those same Republicans? That's the point I'm
No,
making.
but look. In any case, I think you're right in your general point, and I agree. And I think you haven't addressed what I even said. Like, I agreed with you by saying that by making having the thought in your mind, right, that these people the people who have a different political opinion to you are immediately your enemies and harbor all these racial animus and all of that kind of stuff. By having that view, all you do is push the said people into thinking more like that, right? By not being open and having open discussion and being friends who can disagree, right? Which is the best possible world. All you do is you put, once you shun people, you push them further and further into more niche forms of politics, which then might lead them into something that is bordering on racial or whatever kind of I don't know, like I wouldn't like racial animus, if you want to put it like that.
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you totally.
So I think that's a really, really wrong approach by the left. I think it's terrible. But Ashley, I know you wanted to speak, and then people are like.
I just
really
wanted to answer Chillmonger's question real quick. He says, he does bring up abortion. What is a right, wing message? Is abortion is simple, but Elitist brought up an extremist point of view about someone going in and shooting up abortion clinics. Because most Republicans, the base is against abortion. We see what's happened in these states where basically now in the state of Kentucky, our prior governor, there's one abortion facility, whether you agree or disagree. And that was based off a Republican agenda and shifted. We see these things that have happened. That is a right-wing message. And whether you agree, I'm not trying to get into abortion, okay?
Yeah.
Not doing that. But I'm just saying that is a right-wing message, and it's in, so Chillmonger is that simple. Like, that's what Elitist was saying, but he was bringing up that extremist
right. And if I could reword it, I would just say, like, what if there was a movie where it was a bunch of lawyers that were like, they were the heroes of the movie, and then at the end, they got a bunch of abortion clinics to fund it. Like, that would be ridiculous if that movie got made. Like, I wouldn't want to see that shit.
Yeah.
That's the point I was making. Like, why are there neither message is their messages are irrelevant to me. It's all about making a good film. That's all I was saying. Like,
he's saying.
Sure, I agree with that. And let's read these last messages, and then we'll shift out. So JG They said we can't judge the Democrats off of what they used to do. So by the same merit, we shouldn't judge white people for what they used to do. I'm playing by Nerdman's rules. I don't think you are, but fair enough. What do you think? Is that what I was saying? I don't think it was, but I think we were talking about a historically specific moment where a bunch of Democrats in the South moved over to the Republicans.
Yeah, Pickle. Yeah, we'll just have to see it differently there.
I think. Yeah, Pickle. The problem is with these respectfully, of course. The problem is with these arguments. There's a lot of lumping all Democrats and all Republicans together as if they all have the same ideologies. I think that's true, right? Guys, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
It's just it went there, but
I didn't mean to turn it into a shit show.
No, Elitist.
I'm not shilling for either side. I was just making a point that I don't want to see.
Sometimes when it goes there with you, it's just a natural thing. I don't always agree, but you're tight. You know what I'm saying?
All I was saying is,
but I love to hear the viewpoint.
I don't want to see overhanded political messages from either side. I'm fine with it if it's nuanced.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I was saying. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, it's cool. I just didn't want to change Turner Dazed and Confused celebration kind of thing.
No, it's fine. I'm sorry.
Another issue. He's asking Chillmonger, you want another issue? Sometimes even with bringing prayer back into schools, that is a very right-wing message. A lot of Republican ideals, and I'm not gonna get into religion too much, and there should be that separation, is still based off these religious aspects, and the history of these communities that vote predominantly, vote this way, right? So that is not as big as abortion, but prayer in schools is a big one, that it's a right-wing message, and that becomes, too one-sided, based off religion. There's several.
So Jess, JG, also the fact that if you say you aren't the same party as people, they take it as a personality attack, and that's just not the case. Yeah, agreed. I just don't. I have right-wing friends. I have left-wing friends. It just, to me, it's crazy that we've got to a state where, we just can't respectfully disagree. I find that bizarre to me.
And I think that, just people are completely sometimes, see it completely different, like you say, but we can.
Just to address this, because I don't want Chillmonger to feel like I'm strawmanning him. Anti-abortion, conservative, fiscally, not into
austerity.
Austerity. Not into government-backed healthcare for all, Medicare for all. Those are right-wing positions. I was just trying to say that if those messages were turned into a film, I wouldn't want to watch it.
I mean, it kind of, the fiscal responsibility kind of went out the window a little bit with the past administration a bit, but that is a right-wing message as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Good Lord, you always act as if you have no idea what I'm talking about after you bring up some bullshit, and I address it, Nerdman. Okay, love you. All right.
Can I just say one more thing, Nerdman?
Go for it.
Chillmonger, the one thing that I was trying to illustrate too is that I don't like that either side wants to take a moral authority over another. Like, we have the answers and these other people are the villains. That's the part of it that I have a real problem with.
Sorry, say that again one more time.
There seems to be a moral superiority thing going on where both sides think they're better than the other one, and the other one is just black and white the villain.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the way to go. I agree with that. And yeah, the rest is just like,
Emily.
hello, yes, I feel you, that
But
kind of
Dazed
thing.
and Confused is the
Um,
shit, guys.
Dazed
Yeah, it
and
is.
confused is the shit, and I think
And
we
we're
did
gonna
a good
talk
job of breaking down why. So,
right. And we're
yeah,
gonna talk
go
about police brutality on my channel later, so Chillmonger, feel free to come join the shit show.
on. Yeah, let's do it. I don't know if you'll be available, Ashley, but that would be cool if you are.
I might be
Um,
able to come on. Like, how long are you gonna go? Because I have to do something like really. I might
um,
be.
I
You know.
don't know.
You
That's
know.
really up to Film Elitist. It's gonna
Because I
be his
do have
first
to
stream.
do my one later, but I might be able to come. I definitely will be watching. I got to do one or two things, and if you're still streaming, I could maybe hop on.
Cool.
But
All right, I will talk about that off stream just so I can end this before. I want to do it before 2 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, so guys, please do me a favor, give me a high five, smash that like button. Of course, subscribe to all these great panelists today, Film Elitist and Ashley, as per usual, legends. Did such a great job breaking down this movie and talking about other stuff as well, which is cool. And yeah, so please subscribe to Film Elitist. He's going to be doing a discussion a bit later. Will it just be on the police brutality? Is it on the Derek Chauvin
oh my
verdict?
gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
on the Derek
He
Derek
proposed that
Chauvin.
idea, by the way, Ashley. But we're gonna talk about Rick and Morty episode 1.
Oh, really? Okay, we're still
gonna-
doing that as well.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit
I
about.
would not expect anything else from you.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, no, I'm not saying like not. It's a bad thing. I think it's cool that you're
Okay.
doing it.
Okay, yeah, and I'm going to talk about Loki a little bit, and we're going to talk about probably the bulk of it'll be police brutality, Derek Chauvin, all that stuff. So,
Okay.
and
Very
it's my first
interesting.
video, so.
Excellent. So, guys, come on, join, subscribe to Film Elitist, subscribe to Ashley. Most of
It's
you
gonna
know
be
Ashley
so
anyway.
tight.
Like,
I'm
and
just
yeah,
Film Elitist over
comment,
here. I
comment
can't do it right.
favorite quotes of Dazed and Confused, why you love it, when you first watched it, and I will comment back. I really am interested in people's experience of this film. So I hopefully will get a lot of interaction in the comment section. And what else do you need to do? Share, please, if you can. And subscribe, like, share, comment. I think I've covered all of them.
Make
so
sure your
that
notifications are turned on so you don't forget when Nerdman goes live, or if he's going to drop a song, video, of anything, you will know when the content drops. Make sure those notifications are turned on, please. Click that bell.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Emily. You've been great. You've been great. So glad you loved the movie as well.
Shout out to the liberals,
Yes.
man, and the Republicans.
I'm the only mod. Hold on. But you could do it, Nerdman. Can you put Elise's link in the chat? Because I'm not on YouTube. I'm on StreamYard. So
Elias's.
yes,
Sorry,
Film link in the chat. Film Elitist. Can you put his channel link in the chat?
Oh,
because
yeah,
I can't comment in your StreamYard and I'm not on YouTube.
If you send me at Film Elitist in the private chat, I can do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it real quick.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Watch this fast stream.
Shout out all
real tight.
All the political spectrums out there, all the genders. It's all love, baby.
It's all love, baby.
Here. There it is.
It's all love. All right.
All right, and I think that link is in the chat there, Nerdman. So if you want to put it in the chat there for everybody, that'd be great. If I was on YouTube, I would do it.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, guys, if you want to hear more, we're going to be streaming in about 50 minutes.
Cool.
So tight.
All right. So you know what it is. I'm gonna see you on the flip side. Love you 3000. Peace.